So, Mindy mentioned we were talking about hashtag passion project today, which Jeff and I are both pretty familiar with, I think, right? We both have been flexing our creative muscles lately, and that's what they are, muscles, and diving back into sort of these things that, really excited us at one point, but maybe we got sidetracked from doing or pursuing. So actually, Jeff, let's talk to you first about the Adventures of Serbanand and sort of what prompted you to do this and what it is for those who are not familiar.
Thanks. My book, it's a sci-fi comedy. It's called The Ridiculous Adventures of Serbanand. And I started writing it when I was about 15 or so and have gone back to it every so often. So the book came about because my background, I got inspired by British comedy. When I was younger, I watched shows like Fawlty Towers, On the Buses, Benny Hill, Steve Allen, and then that transitioned into Monty Python. And then when I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it really made me inspired to want to do my own. And when that series stopped, I said, well, you know what, I'm going to write my own and continue, a new journey. And I came back to it every so often. It was something that was fun to do. And then life got in the way and other things happened. Many years later, about 5 years ago, I got inspired by my mother-in-law, who at 69 published her first book. And to me, that was my little kick in the ass too. It's time for me to get it going. But again, life got in the way and other things happened. And then during the pandemic lockdown last year, Mindy dared me and she said, you know what, go back to like that thing that you're passionate about and just really do it and dive right in, but not just do it and kind of look at it and play with it, like finish it, like actually complete it. So with Mindy's help, Mindy was great on helping with the storyboarding and editing because I'm like writing, but the editing part, I don't like that. But got it finished. And what was really cool was when you get into that flow state, which I'm sure anyone who, is embarking on a creative project or anything for that matter, from sports to business, when you get into that state, like the right things start to line up, the right connections start to happen, and you just feel like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it was really cool to get this completed.
So we'll get to Alan and how he sort of ties into this in just a moment, but I relate to this, right? I am a creative individual, and I've been talking on this show, outside of this show, about sort of how I lost my creative juices or my creative inspiration for quite some time. And for me, that was because I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself to create in a very specific box or niche that I just was feeling sort of uninspired by. And so I took Rethink Fit to mean rethink social media, rethink my creative process, right? What does that look like for me now? And I think a lot of people, I've talked to many artists and actors and creative types who also, like, when the pandemic happened, dealt with a very similar thing. And it was like, oh, we finally have the time to like do all of these creative projects we'd put on the shelf because we were so busy, like hustling and making money, doing the things. And then we had nothing, right? Like there was like, the pandemic happened. We were like, great, all this time. And then it was like, I don't have any ideas. I don't feel inspired, but yet I'm supposed to be doing creative stuff. I have the time. What am I going to do? And then there's all this pressure. And then like, you're kind of just backed into a corner because then you have all this pressure on yourself. And like, of course you're not going to be able to create under those sorts of like circumstances that you're placing on yourself. And like, we have to remember too, that we are living through a global pandemic. Like, there is no pressure to use this time to be productive. Like, who's saying that? We're saying that. And it's so amazing, Jeff, that you've been able to use the time to be creative. But I had to take a moment myself to I had to take a step back. I was like, all right, I'm getting off these platforms for a moment and I'm going to focus on, what feels right for me. And as somebody who did a lot of comedy, it was like the opposite of that. Like, that's where I wasn't finding my inspiration. I was like, I don't have anything funny to post. It feels very irrelevant. And like, also, like, I just felt inappropriate posting funny stuff when terrible things were happening. And so I went into like a more serious, like ponderous side. And I started working on my passion project, which was my pilot based on autobiographical experiences, it's pretty dark. And that's sort of where I took my passion project and leaned in. And like to everyone else, it really didn't look like I was doing a whole lot of anything because I'm a very socially present person normally. And I had sort of detached from social media and gone inward and, worked on this thing that I was feeling creatively inspired by. And I did it. Like my pilot is written, many drafts have been made, and like a pitch deck has been formed, and now I am actively working on shooting the sizzle for that. So like, with 2 passion projects completed here. So I think, it is go with the flow, right? So like, even if you are not a creative person, if you don't consider yourself a creative person, but like something speaking to you, go there, like try it. Remove the expectation that it has to look a certain way, that you have to turn out a certain kind of project or product, and just do it for the fun of it, right? Just do it because like you're being called to do that thing. And so I think when we can remove the expectations of what we think we're supposed to be doing, what we think it's supposed to look like, we can actually enjoy the process, which is honestly what this is all about. The other great thing about pursuing your passion is that it encourages you to align or collaborate with others who are also pursuing their passions. Case in point for me, I collaborated with a person who I really admired their work, both as a writer and an actress. We had very similar stories. So she was my writer. We both wrote together on this pilot. And I know for you, you got to collaborate with Alan Irving, who is here today. So I want to talk a little bit about, how you two came to be connected, what that collaborative experience was like for you, and maybe how it even fostered your ability to lean into your own passion projects and creative process, Alan. So I don't know who wants to kick this off in terms of like who found who and how, but I'll let one of you take it away.
One of the things that I realized when I did the book, there's part of you, or at least there was part of me that wanted to be in control of everything. So I'm going to write the book. The first version had this as a cover, which was a picture I took. And I said, that's not it. And I found someone to actually do like the artwork. And then my dream was to have this as an audiobook and an animated series. And at first it's, I'm going to record it. I'll do all the voices and everything else. And I said, no, that's not my creative talent. Let's put this out and find somebody who can actually bring those characters to life. And we put this audition out on Audible, and there was literally just under 100 people who auditioned for it. And based on what the audition was about, and Alan could talk more, we got amazing, such hilarious reels that came in. But Alan stood out, like he took the voice that was in my head and it came out into real life. So I'll let Alan go further on that, but it was awesome.
Well, yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. Firstly, let me say it's a pleasure and honor to be joining you today. Thank you for the invite as a guest on here. Yeah, Jeffrey's right, really. It was just when I saw this audition through Audible, I thought, well, as we say over here, that's a bit of me. I've got my track record in comedy. I just love British comedy, and the classic stuff, the Fawlty Towers, the Monty Python, and I'm a bit of a Young Ones and Blackadder fan as well. So all that stuff, and some of the dark stuff too as well, which we won't go into. But I'm also a bit of a sci-fi geek. I'm a Star Wars generation. I was 5 years old when that Star Wars came out. So my dad used to joke that I've seen the film so many times I could tell how many rivets are on the side of the Millennium Falcon. So and so everything that goes with that. So the mixture of comedy and sci-fi, I was all over this, and I just knew I had to kind of do it justice. That little scripts, that little sample script that Jeffrey sent up, that I just knew that I'd give it my all. So I'm very, very pleased. And to be chosen out of all those fantastic auditions, it just means so much.
So, it's really incredible that the two sort of genres that Jeffrey was combining, really fits your own, interests and passions and the things that have inspired and excited you. So talk to me about sort of like, do you have any passion projects that you're working on, or what are your sorts of, I don't know too much about you. What are your career goals or aspirations, or even creatively outside of that? Is there something that has occupied, I keep getting this in castings and it's honestly driving me insane, but they're like, have you picked up any new hobbies during the pandemic?
Yeah. Trying to get a candle into a sweet potato. That's going to be my hashtag challenge. Yeah. I think as far as my challenges go, I think it's just to extend my career. I've been in voiceover now for just over 9 years. And we all have goals, whatever career you have, you always want to better yourself. You reach a step, what's next? That's what it's all about. Where can I go from here? So I think for me, it's maybe hitting something mainstream. You're narrating a documentary on a BBC or something a la Richard Attenborough. Not I'm going to, tread on his toes, of course, but, something prime time. And just to expand on what I do and just create more content, I guess.
Would you even consider Jeffrey's project a passion project for you?
Absolutely. I mean, this is, I'm in the middle of the book at the moment. Things are getting very interesting, and I purposely didn't read this book because I wanted to sort of do it as I go, if that makes sense. Just to see what happens, and I am laughing at my own recordings on this, and I'm playing it back, and I'm it's just hilarious. So yeah, so this is a passion for me, and doing this, and if the world of Serbiland opens up the way that Jeffrey has been speaking about, then what could be better? This